Hello and welcome back to the Pitwall Podcast, where today we're going to be breaking down the 2024 British Grand Prix. And I'm starting the podcast so you know what that means. Mercedes won not one, but two back-to-back freaking races, bro.
Yeah,
Back-to-back. Both drivers and Lewis finally won a race after almost 1,000 days since December 5th, 2021.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely crazy. It was the best, one of the best possible ways it could have happened.
Yeah, this race was amazing. I think for him to win in this fashion was awesome.
Dude, so I watched live, which I almost never do for this early of a race for us, but my parents are in town and they wanted to, and I'm so glad I did.
Oh,
Because just imagine if this got spoiled or something.
Oh, for sure.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
I was like 50 minutes behind you or something like that watching, and when Kendra was like, "Have you watched?" I was like, "Oh no."
dude, I'm gonna have to watch it again because I don't remember. I had to look up stuff because it was just me's tunnel vision,
blackout tunnel vision on Lewis Hamilton.
dude.
Nothing else in the race mattered except for Lewis Hamilton for the year.
Well, before we get into everything, be sure to like, subscribe, follow at the Pitwall Pod, and as always, I'm gonna have to contain myself here, and I'm gonna try and do a quali in 60, which was also one of the best qualifyings of the year. So. Not just because of what happened, but I'm just saying in terms of the craziness. So it was a dry, wet qualifying. It was one of those crazy things. Pierre Gasly got P20, but that doesn't really matter. We'll talk about later. The big name was that Checo crashed out. P19 start with just behind Esteban Ocon, Kevin Magnussen, Valtteri Bottas all down in the bottom 5. Daniel Ricciardo barely squeaked out P15. Zhou Guan Yu in 14. Yuki in 13. Logan Hometown Sargent in P12. And Charles Leclerc at Ferrari in P11. And then both Astons made it into Q3. Fernando Alonso, of all people, in P10 behind Albon, also Williams in 9th. Lance Stroll beat both of them in 8th, which is crazy. Carlos Sainz in 7th. Nico Hulkenberg, a Haas, in 6th. Oscar Piastri in 5th. Max Verstappen, after nearly crashing himself, managed to get to P4. It was actually very impressive.
Yep.
Lando Norris P3. And Mercedes front row lockout. George Russell on pole, Lewis Hamilton in 2nd. That was over a minute, and I don't even care because it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome. And Russell beat Lewis by 2/10.
Yeah.
He just that lap was insane.
Yeah.
I thought, I really thought it was going to be a McLaren lockout of the front row the whole weekend.
Yeah.
And then Mercedes did it. And I was just, from that moment, Lewis being in P2, I was like, oh my gosh, he could actually win this race. It's actually a thing that could happen.
Yeah.
And I knew what I needed to happen, and it didn't happen, which is I needed Max to not immediately get past Lando, which we'll talk about. So anyway, man, I'm just well, let's talk about Mercedes last because I have so much to say, but I want to not take up the whole podcast.
No, it's all good.
Where do you want to start?
Let's talk about Haas, actually.
Okay.
Because we got
Haas
some interesting news.
syndrome.
So I'll talk about Magnussen because his isn't as important. Magnussen got P12, which is still shocking for him. But I don't he had potential. If he made it out of Q1, I think he would have had points.
Oh, Magnussen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Haas looked pretty good this weekend. Yeah.
And then Hulkenberg, just
destroying.
went crazy.
Yeah, dude. Incredible. I can't even begin to believe what's happening right now.
Yeah.
But Hulkenberg did back-to-back P6. Not to mention, the stat that's flying around right now is that in the last 2 races, he's outscored Checo in his points total in the last 6 races.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I mean, we'll talk about Checo in a second, but geez, dude, that is crazy. I mean, Red Bull, get Hulkenberg. Give that man his podium.
I actually don't think I'd be mad about that.
Get that man his podium.
I don't think I'd be mad about that.
Yeah, I've really turned around my opinion on him. At first, I thought he was washed a couple years ago, but now I feel like he's an actual good driver.
When he came back into the sport, I was like,
really?
He has nothing other than points under his belt. There's no podiums or anything like that. That's really standoutish. And then, I mean, still, he hasn't, but he's also at Haas, and he finished P6 at Silverstone.
Dude, with the right formula at Audi, he could get his
I'm really excited to see.
He's got 3 more years already.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's crazy. So,
next, let's talk about Alpine because they are just crapping the bucket once again. Like,
welcome back.
For Ocon, huge strategy failure, honestly, from, I think, just both. Well, I mean, obviously from Pierre Gasly, but Ocon just seemed like a strategy failure. They did not have anything going right for them the entire weekend. So he got P16, which is what the people who actually finished. So his P18 was like the last. So yeah, I mean, he didn't do great at all.
He beat Checo though.
That is true. I mean, hey, trust me, I don't have anything good to say about Checo. So
I gotta say, like I said, we'll talk about Red Bull, but Red Bull made some pretty smart decisions with Checo during the race. I will say, and I'll explain. Gasly, so his weekend started out screwed because they gave him a 50-place grid penalty, which means nothing. If you have more than 20, it means nothing. You just start from the back of the grid because he was getting a new engine, all the components, except they didn't take a gearbox. And what craps the bed at the beginning of the race, but the gearbox.
Why not just
so anyway, he's having trouble on the formation lap. I'm actually unclear whether or not he started the race because if he didn't start the race, he will also have a 50-place grid penalty. The graphic was confusing. The graphic was confusing, but I think he puttered around for 1 lap and made it 1 lap.
Maybe
and
they
his
did
penalty.
that on purpose.
But also, I'd be concerned about if that gearbox did anything to the engine. So, in any engine sync situation. So, it was rough. He DNF'd.
Wait a minute. On F1.com, Gasly
DNS.
reveals why he wasn't able to start the race.
Oh, yeah?
Wasn't able to start.
Oh, yeah. It says DNS. So, he should have a 50-place grid penalty at the Hungaroring as well.
Dang.
I mean, it doesn't.
It wouldn't do much for him, but it sucks.
Yeah, so Gasly's going to start from the back of the next race, too. So, yeah. I mean, every time.
They should just line them up at the turn before the grid. For that 50 place.
Yeah, I know. It should be like, there's got to be something. You shouldn't be able to take 50 and still start. There's got to be like, all right, if you take more than 25, you got to, I don't know, start from the pit lane.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think, pit lane start would make sense.
It's insane. So, anyway, do you want to talk about RB a little bit?
Yeah. Ricardo P13, just still lacking pace. He can't, just the entire season, he's had a few ups, but it's mainly been down compared to Yuki.
Yeah, I mean, RB is kind of on a downward trajectory right now anyway. Yuki did get 10th, so he did get a point.
Yeah, Yuki specifically started off a lot better, though. This
season's one of the craziest F1 seasons I know about. I mean, 6 different winners alone is crazy, but just the variation of teams and not knowing.
Yeah.
Like I was telling Dawson before it started, and you'll see it in our predictions video, I don't know what to predict anymore. Like, it's like, which is a good thing.
Anything can happen.
Anything can happen.
Hey, that's why I really thought Hulkenberg was gonna do it.
Yeah. You know what you were close though.
I do.
But
apologize.
The sprint, you cursed him.
I really did.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, Nico.
Oh, man. Well, anyway, yeah, I don't really know what else to say about RB. I thought they would be better. A team that I did have a very accurate season prediction for thus far was Ferrari.
Okay.
Because at Ferrari, I said at the beginning of the year, I said they're going to start close and fall off.
Oh, yeah.
And they have quite a bit.
Yeah.
Charles Leclerc obviously did not qualify well, but then they botched his strategy. Welcome back, Ferrari 2022.
Yep.
And he finished P14. And this is like the only negative for me this whole weekend is I'm just thinking about Lewis going to Ferrari next year. And it's the fear is creeping in because there's been no mistakes for Ferrari up to this point for the last 18 months. And then starting in Canada, it was just thing after thing after thing since then. And they've thrown away. I mean, if they could have kept their pace up, they'd be leading the constructors right now. Mm-hmm. You know, they didn't even have to win all the last recent races. They were only 21 points behind them. And Checo and even Max with damage has left the door open multiple times. But yeah, he finished P14. They brought him in, and this time they put him on inters when it wasn't time, unlike last time when they put him on hards when it was wet.
Yeah.
So they're just inventing new things once again. So how was Sainz's race?
He was P5. So honestly, like for Ferrari being what they are, it's probably the best they could have gotten, especially with McLaren and Mercedes and Red Bull in front of them. That's probably the best they're going to get.
There was a minute there where I thought he was like actually in consideration, where I could have actually won the race.
Yeah,
there are ways it could have gone.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think just out of genuine pace, every car that was ahead of him was there for a reason.
Yeah, I agree. Another team. Well, let's talk about Sauber real fast. Let's just knock them out.
Zhou was P18, so another back of the grid finish. Strategy was also against him. They kind of messed up his 4-stop. And
4-stop.
Yeah. And I don't think he was going to finish much higher, but I definitely think like part of it wasn't really his fault.
Well, Valtteri Bottas did beat him and finished P15, but because of Logan Sargent's finish, Bottas is now P21 in a 20-man championship, which that doesn't look good. No. However, I have this new feeling that he's going to end up at Williams and it'll all be fine anyway. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because I think Sainz, I don't know what Sainz is doing anymore, man. But I think James Vowles is getting bored and wants Valtteri or Kimi Antonelli, depending on how things go.
Yeah.
So, but speaking of which, let's talk about Williams' race.
Yeah. Sargent, like we said, P11.
Woo!
So actually close to the points. Honestly, a good showing and he's only a few places behind Albon for like first time in a while.
He finished 20 seconds off of Albon for the race.
Yeah.
So it's not bad.
Duh. I mean, for what we've been seeing from Sargent, I'm pretty happy about that.
Albon finished in P9, so he got points. Let's go.
Yep.
Welcome back, Alex Albon, to the points. Not your fault previously, but ain't nothing. Albon's never at fault. Have you ever noticed that? Like, he never does anything wrong these days. But
except for his crash earlier this season.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, that was pretty bad.
That was pretty rough.
Yeah, I take it back.
What,
these
like
days is
it
was
3 races
Australia.
ago?
It was Australia.
Okay.
Yeah, I forgot about that. The season's going fast.
Yeah, dude.
Now
I was like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah, last year felt slow because it was like Max wins, just bang, bang, bang.
Now it's complete opposite.
Yeah, dude. This is as far opposite as you can get, basically.
Yeah.
So
people are still gonna find a reason to complain though.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, now it's like a bad race when Max wins, but now it's like it's like when Max wins, it's like a surprise now, like a little bit. Like I genuinely don't know what's gonna happen. Mm-hmm. So, this is gonna be a wild season to the finish. Yeah. So let's talk about. We talked about Ferrari. Let's talk about Aston.
Yeah. Stroll was P7 and was able to keep up with Alonso for like the entirety of the weekend. So like honestly,
he beat Alonso.
Yeah, not a bad showing for Stroll. Like seriously, didn't look terrible this weekend. It's a shocker.
I know.
So he's got a +1 for me.
His dad was there this weekend, so maybe it had something to do with it.
That's what
I don't
it
know.
was.
But P8.
You know what it is? His dad doesn't watch the races unless he's there.
Yeah.
So he only has to do good when his dad's actually at the races.
Yeah, he can throw his physio against a wall, and his dad doesn't know about it. P8 was Alonso, so Stroll beat Alonso, but also double points for Aston.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a Mercedes and a Red Bull and a Ferrari out of place, so like, but still, I mean, they did
was
well.
the Red Bull really out of place?
No.
Like, you got to think about that.
Oh, I love the exception. I love that you have accepted the reality.
Yeah.
Man, I have no idea what to think about Aston. I mean, all of a sudden they're like fast again.
I don't know.
Semi-fast.
I
think it's a fluke.
I mean, last season, if you look at the start, they basically swapped with McLaren.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like McLaren started like a tractor, Aston Martin ended up a tractor. I think maybe we're gonna get a few races where they get the top, like where they get between like 6 and P10, but I don't think it's going to go above that.
Yeah, where RB, Haas, Aston, all are is very weird.
Yeah.
It's like race to race. RB is probably the
Alpine
lowest.
and Sauber are like bottom 2 for sure.
So, speaking of which, was it Gunther's fault this whole time? Because they're like having a great season. I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think I'm sure it's a coincidence. Like he also like you got to think his last year was like their first year being able to actually reach the cost cap.
Yeah.
So like
nothing else has changed.
He only had a year of actual developmental time.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, man. Well, let's talk about Red Bull because actually, let's talk about McLaren first. McLaren first. Good idea.
Piastri, P4, solid race. Dude, okay. Right when I start feeling like McLaren is going to start winning,
yep, they don't.
Mercedes just swoops in and comes out of nowhere, bro.
Dude, so, I mean, we're going to talk about all the teams kind of together at this point. So, Lando, he didn't choke this win, but McLaren, I feel like, did. They put him on the wrong tire.
They asked him.
They asked him what tire
do you want when they have the data. Like,
also, it's incredible that the pit crew even had the tires ready in time because I mean, we usually hear I would say the radios about 30 seconds after, and we're hearing it as he's pulling into the pit, which means that he was on the back half of a lap.
Yep.
And the pit crew didn't know which of 3 tire compounds. Yep. So he comes in, he misses his spot, and this is like the most crucial point in the race, which I'll talk about in a minute. But McLaren, man. I heard someone say it best. It's like they have the fastest car, they have the best car right now, but they don't have the best team.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, dang. I think it's Matt from P1 that said that. And I was just like, that's accurate because the best Mercedes was the best team this weekend.
Yeah.
I don't think Lewis's car was the fastest car, but they were the best team.
Yeah.
And it's just I have this just gut feeling that things are it's gonna turn into a Ferrari 22 situation with McLaren. I think it's gonna keep getting worse because obviously we didn't film for Austria because I was out on vacation, and of course Mercedes wins. Also, just by the way, I had it spoiled for me, which really sucked. I had all my Twitter notifications off, but for some reason one pushed to me that was like P1 baby, and I was like, ugh. But I still didn't believe it because it was so late into the race, and I'm taking off and I'm streaming it, which, I know you're supposed to be on airplane mode, but whatever. I'm streaming it on my iPad because I couldn't get it to download. It was the whole thing. And Max and Lando get through their whole crash, and it like happens. I see all of it, and then I lose service. So I have 5 laps or 6 laps left. So, I mean, we could have sat here all day debating whose fault it was for that. But either way, I think I do want to say this about Austria. Lando seemed overeager to me.
Yeah.
Like he was trying to these crazy moves to try and get around Max. Yeah. Of all people that you don't want to try crazy moves on, it's Max Verstappen.
Yeah.
You got to go for the cleanest. You got to pass him on a straight that is very, very wide. Yeah. Like that's what you got to do. Because Max is going to go like this on the straight too.
Yep.
You got to pass him in like Mexico only situation. And on that straight. And I'm not surprised at all that they crashed.
Yeah, I'm not either.
I like, okay, you can say who's at fault? It's Max has got the penalty, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, I think that Lando was creating the situation over and over again, and it was inevitable. So with that said, I mean, they're just throwing wins away left and right here.
Yeah.
Man. So I
really thought like Lando was gonna have a really good shot here.
So
I wish, man.
Mercedes has arrived at the latest possible moment, but early enough in the season where it could get interesting because we're halfway through. And the thing about Red Bull that they're going to benefit from is that McLaren, Mercedes, and Ferrari are going to keep picking points off each other, and Red Bull's going to be fine, I think. It might be closer than comfort, but...
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I don't know, if McLaren and Mercedes are keeping this like 2 to 4 spot or 2 to 5 spot.
Yeah, it could get interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I think Mercedes is going to continue to click as a team after this. I think they found their new rhythm after being gutted, after not all this stuff. And I think they're going to be the better team, and they will not have the better car. But I will say that they had, like, I've been reading up about their development plan, and they had like a plan A to plan B. And a plan A is like, if it doesn't go as strongly as they think, they'll go slow, and it worked better than they expected. So now they're going to be throwing a ton of upgrades every single race now. They're going super aggressive on it.
Okay.
So if that works, and remember, I said James Allison, he's finally coming through. Like we said, the man behind the W11 is back.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, Mercedes could pass McLaren. They could be between the two factors. If they're on level with McLaren or just slightly slower, I think they beat McLaren. And so anyway, well, let's talk about Red Bull. Tell me about Red Bull's race.
Yeah, Checo was P17. So not considering Max was P2, which honestly, like,
considering
Max had a crazy race.
He had a crazy weekend.
Yeah. So, I mean, the last few laps was P3 past Lando because, like we said, he got destroyed by a strategy. He was on softs when he should have been on mediums. If Lando was on mediums, he would have. And he would have won mediums. P2. Yeah. He would have been P2 for sure. I don't think Max would have caught up because Max was on hards for their last what?
It was a while.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like half the race he was on hards. But Checo is just. I don't know what it's going to take Red Bull to see that maybe they should look somewhere else. Maybe over summer break they'll have
a realization.
Yeah. I feel like if something doesn't happen over summer break, it's going to take them losing constructors this year to realize.
Do you think it's going to happen? Like if they keep Checo, do you think?
No, there's a strong possibility that they lose constructors this year if Checo keeps it up like this.
So who do you think is going to win? Who would beat Red Bull in constructors? Who's your most likely?
It would have. I mean,
McLaren.
Yeah,
it would take McLaren getting it together. Yeah, I don't think Ferrari. I think Ferrari might.
No, Ferrari couldn't.
I think Ferrari's going to finish P4 at this point. Yeah. Honestly.
Yeah, it's crazy definitely McLaren and Mercedes. If Mercedes keeps going crazy, then
it's possible, dude. This is the perfect stretch for Mercedes to have woken up.
It's going to be tough for them, but
yes. Oh no, I'm not. I have no.
McLaren has the best chance. Mercedes was probably the one that could pull it out.
Yeah. Yeah, they could, if they pull it, if they have to be perfect.
McLaren has the potential. Mercedes just can actually do it.
Yeah,
potentially.
That's a good way to put it.
But like I said, Max, honestly, for what Mercedes is doing right now, or what their car is like and their strategy is like, P2 is perfectly fine.
I mean, he extended his lead in the drivers' championship.
Yeah, for sure.
So obviously Lewis won the race. I mentioned that, and it was incredible. I'm going to talk about two like very key things that happened that both made it happen and almost didn't make it happen. So when McLaren boxed Lando, he missed his pit stop window, and he had like a 5-second stop.
Yeah.
Lewis actually also had a slow stop. So, but Lewis was able to overtake Lando at that point because they pitted him earlier.
Yeah.
But he was on softs, so it was like one of those situations.
Yeah.
And then Max had to hunt down Lando. I was looking at the math, and I was like, even if Max takes half a second out of Lewis every lap, which is pretty much the max I thought he could do at this point, Lando has to hold him off until 5 laps to go.
Yeah.
And he did. And I was like, when that happened, that's when in the video, I started sitting forward, and I started crying 2 laps to go because I was like, it was hard to explain.
Yeah.
Like, because I was so scared because we've been here before and it didn't happen.
Dude, I was hoping for the Crofty monologue.
Yeah,
like
it was
he
great.
did for Leclerc.
Dude, and I was just sitting there like so scared. And that was probably like, in terms of things I've seen on TV, the greatest sporting moment I've ever experienced.
Oh, really?
It was just so relieving because it was like, all right, he's done it.
Better than Leclerc's Monaco win?
Yeah, for me, yeah.
Okay. I mean, for you, yeah. To me personally, like that specific like broadcasted moment.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Was awesome.
Well, the fact that we had that and Lando's win all in the same year is crazy. But dude, and then it was when Lewis started crying that was like, geez.
Oh, yeah.
That was crazy. Like him talking about
he crossed the finish line and then you heard him on the radio.
I've never seen it. I've never seen him cry.
Yeah.
Ever. I've watched him win championships. I've watched the video of him winning his first race, no tears.
Yeah.
But this race, he was like, I doubted myself, like all this stuff. And I don't know. I just like, I went through some stuff in my life around like his models is similar to this. Yeah. And like Lewis has been a big role model for me. Yeah. So like I understand what he's feeling.
Yeah.
It was incredible. So this might awaken a beast for all we know. Now that he knows that he can actually win.
He's going to cancel. He's going to rip up that contract.
Dude, that would be nuts. I don't think he would do that, but like he got to at least.
He's got to think about it.
He's got to consider it, right? Like surely Toto.
Dude, if he did though, like imagine like all this silly season would just go out the window and everything would just stay like it is pretty much. Like Lewis Hamilton going to Ferrari has like changed everything for the teams.
Dude, I don't know though. I mean, this has also reawakened the should Max consider Mercedes again situation.
Yeah.
Depending on what's going on behind the scenes.
That's true.
I know.
I didn't think about that.
There's a lot of things.
I've forgotten about that actually for the past like few weeks.
I know.
Dang.
So that's reawakened the whole thing. So anyway, back to crucial moments. So Lando holds off Max.
Yep.
But the other very key and sneaky as crap thing that Red Bull did that I don't know if you noticed. They pitted Checo for absolutely no reason towards the end of the race. not to steal fastest lap. They put him on mediums or hards. I think it was hards actually. I was like,
to try and get him in front of Lewis.
They put him right in front of Lewis for traffic. Now it didn't work.
Yeah,
because where they met up, but there were places where it would have cost him about a second. And I noticed as I was watching, I was like yelling at the screen. I was like, "Dang it, that's genius!" Like I was like, "That is genius."
Yeah,
because it's worked before.
Yeah.
So it didn't work, but that was very sneaky.
Okay.
And
I didn't even realize that.
They also put Checo on hards to test it for Max earlier in the race. So like Checo was a complete sacrificial win, but he deserved it because he was nowhere near.
Yeah, for sure.
He was never going to get points under any circumstance at this race. So I will also say Max really impressed me in qualifying because he goes off the track. And in the next lap, he uses the rest of that lap as a warm-up lap and puts down a lap fast enough to get into Q2 with dead tires in the rain after going through gravel with damage.
Yeah.
And he still gets up into P4. And I was like,
I was so happy, dude. Because I thought it was going to be like I thought Red Bull was both going to be out.
I'm glad he did because I'd rather Mercedes than Lewis win this way.
Yeah.
Because like Max had some damage. I'm not delusional.
There's going to be those people that if Max was out of the top 5 would have been like, oh, well, that's the only reason he won.
I'm not delusional. I think Max was losing about 0.2 a lap or something just with damage. I know they replaced his floor for after qualifying, but I'm realistic in knowing that it would have been much closer if Max didn't have damage. But I still think Lewis would have won. Genuinely. I think he won genuinely. So also I should mention Russell. He got pole and water leak issue and
so what happened?
DNF. I don't know because
he pitted and then halfway through the next lap
my theory is when it started raining, you know how both Mercedes went off the track. I think George bumped his car or something in the wrong way and it loosened something.
Okay.
Because they haven't said yet.
I don't know if they'd said anything specific about it. Okay.
So but they also haven't put out their debrief fully yet. So but at the time we're recording,
everybody's still celebrating.
Yeah. They haven't slept yet. Probably. Anyway, give me your winner and loser for this race.
Winner won't. I'll let you have that one. Winner is gonna be. You know what? Williams.
Yeah. All right.
Because P11 isn't the best, but it's a lot better than what they've been getting, and Albon being in the points as well is pretty nice. Did you say winner and loser?
Loser, yeah.
Okay. Loser. Leclerc for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's the number one deserved loser, probably, other than Alpine, but they get it every week. So
what's expected?
Yeah.
So winner Lewis Hamilton. I think him just destroying all the stats. You said he's the GOAT for sure. Now
I did.
I
forgot. I was gonna say this. Well, actually, no. I have it in my predictions. I was gonna say it in my predictions, and I'm gonna say it there again as well.
Yeah.
But you can't really dispute it anymore. Like Lewis Hamilton has made history in every aspect of Formula One. He's tied for championships, but still, every other record is his.
I think people are. It's going to take him winning an 8th for him to be for sure.
Yeah, but I mean,
I think he will.
Still, I think Lewis Hamilton is the greatest driver of all time.
Well,
and I know it's shocking. I'm a Red Bull fan.
Hey, well, I mean, you can change your mind.
But I also know what, at this point, like I know who good drivers are.
Well, I mean, you can change your mind too because Max has a long career left. So for all we know, Max wins 7 world championships.
Greatest of all time so far
at this current date. Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, the 9 wins at one track is crazy.
Yes.
Winning 300 a race after his 300th Grand Prix. Haha, take that, Alonso.
So he's the only person to do that, right?
Ever.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, current stat as of recording this, Lewis has more wins than points finishes. So, and what I mean is, out of his 344 career races, he's won 104 races. Yeah. And other than that, he's been in the points 102 times.
Oh, okay. So he's came first more than he's came anywhere else
in the points.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then and then outside the points, he's only not been in the points of 12 of his races.
Wow.
I don't know if that counts DNFs. Oh, that doesn't count DNFs.
Oh, okay.
So, and then there's 31 DNFs.
Gotcha.
So, which is also not too bad. So anyway, loser, I'm going to give to Ferrari just in general.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm going to give them a tie, Ferrari and McLaren. I think they're both just destroying their seasons right now. And it's going to take a big change in order to fix that. So, All right. Well, that's about it. Be sure to tune in next week for our predictions video. Subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.
See you next time.
Bye.
Peace.